In this fascinating little time we find ourselves in, all being sheltered in place, wondering when this coronavirus will just be a distant but historical memory that we've all learned to nothing from, I found myself leafing through the insanely vast Steam library that I've been building for over a decade now, and came across Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 Sith Lords. Now, when I was younger, I had beaten the original Knights of the Old Republic game and had absolutely fallen in love with it. But I had never gotten around to a successor. So there's no time like the present for us to give this game a spin because I know how high of esteem it is held in, and I had no doubt the value that could bring. So let's take a look together. Knights of the Old Republic takes place 4,000 years before the creation of the Galactic Empire. For those of you, and I, who are not super involved with the lore of Star Wars, it's more or less 4,000 years before the original movies from the 70s came out. And just like nearly any RPG, your character has been hit with that seemingly all too pervasive bout of amnesia, rendering you completely unknowing of how you got there or who you are, giving you that tabula rasa needed to forge a path forward for your character, whether that is finding your inner self and becoming the pillar of society that all Jedi should be, or just being that uncle at the Thanksgiving dinner table and being the absolute biggest dickwagon the galaxy has ever seen and slowly turning to the dark side. The choice is ultimately yours. Now, let's address the biggest elephant in the room here. This game is over 14 years old. If it was a person, it would be hanging out in Call of Duty chat lobbies insulting other games and claiming to have slept with their moms. And just for a quick note, some other games that came out in 2004, Half-Life 2, Rome Total War, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, World of Warcraft, and that's just to name a few, which, my god, how good did we have it back in that day. Despite this truly who's who of the gaming world in so many titles that we hold dear, most of us can acknowledge that many 3D games have not aged super gracefully from that time, and Knights of the Old Republic is no exception to this rule. Now, that by no means is the fault of the game developers or designer or the game itself. They did what they could with the tools at the time. There wasn't nearly as much functionality available to game developers in the 3D world as we see today. What would have taken an entire team of experienced developers and artists weeks to accomplish for a game level or an area, a single person can now basically recreate with a few months of Unity experience and do that in just a couple days or maybe a week or two. There just is way more resources available for us now that wasn't available back then. That being said though, this is where we see the one sticking point of where this game has not aged well. Considering how fluid and seamless we can expect 3D RPGs nowadays, Knights of the Old Republic feels incredibly janky in comparison. The targeting system suffers a ton based on limited camera angles. Your AI companions don't always make the smartest decisions without getting input from you. One example being that unless you manually give them orders to stay put, your group will always charge through things like minefields, immediately engage with the next party, though you do not have the health or stamina to keep going. There's just certain aspects and functionality to this game that really rubs the player the wrong way in today's times. So for those of you who have never played the series, this is definitely one aspect that can make any newcomer have a really difficult time totally immersing themselves into. And that's totally expected. It's really hard for old games to not age in some kind of manner, especially early 3D games as Knights of the Old Republic was. Where this game does pull through though is with its storyline and party interaction between your character, the members of your group, and the dialogue and action decisions you make along the way. Star Wars is iconic when it comes to the decisions of good versus evil in video games, which is portrayed by choosing to follow the light side or the dark side. Nearly every main and side quest given to you has the option for you to take on these quests with that in mind. Whether you want to be good, be bad, or be neutral, it's really up to you. And how you're able to do that and make these type of decisions is carefully woven into the many dialogue options that are presented to you, with not all of them seemingly obvious in terms of what is actually the good decision or the bad decision. Even side quests can have very complex undercurrents to what the mission at hand really requires you. And so the player has to carefully weigh how you want to interact with people and environments to keep going along the path that you have chosen for your character. What this whole feature makes even more compelling is the dialogue and actions in your party that are all done in response to your own actions. Every character that is accessible in your party menu has a distinct set of characteristics and backstory that will cause them to respond either positively or negatively to any and all of your own actions as a result of of you progressing through these quests. And so what they will also do is allow you to gain or lose influence with them depending on how you speak to them as a result of this. Then, even more, on top of everything I just said, every character has their own light and dark alignments that can also affect their thoughts about you. Meaning that your actions not only affect your good and bad alignment, your light side and dark side, but it also affects the party as a whole. So with all three of these listed features that I had mentioned, combined together, this is what truly gives the game that timeless feel to it. Your actions have such an obvious ripple effect in how your entire playthrough will go that it's hard not to feel invested after picking this game up. Having so many moving parts and so many things to consider lets the player not take such a critical look at the combat engine that clearly is not so great, and allows you to be more drawn to the story because you don't fall in love with the combat, but you fall in love with the narrative that your character is creating. The idea of figuring out who your character was in his previous life, all the while choosing the path that you want him to go moving forward, whether that's the dark side or to the light side, gives a sense of investment that definitely is the main draw to this game. It was back in 2004 and it still is now in 2020. And so that's why overall I have to recommend this game to anyone who shows even the slightest interest in Star Wars, RPGs, whatever, because despite its age, there is still so many redeeming qualities about this game that need to be shown and revisited by not only gamers, but I would also hope the industry itself. And this kind of pivots me to the more philosophical, existential part of my review of this game. It's pretty undisputed that the Star Wars label has not released a better RPG since this Knights of the Republic series came out. The lightning that was captured in this bottle to create this game has since been discarded, which is really a shame because there have been talks about wrapping up the series with a third installment, but it is almost completely certain we will never see that third game. And it's almost even less likely that we will see either the first one or the second one remastered in any sort of way with a new engine, with a new graphics feel. There's not even third-party people modding. The modding community can't even officially create a mod to this due to copyright infringement. And this is really something that maybe speaks to the entire game industry as a whole. For many awesome games that were created in the 2000s, there is a laundry list of reasons as to why their game series has not lived beyond that. Part of that is maybe due to financial troubles of the company, licensing quagmires, lack of vision or resources, etc. I know that when I look at these type of games with tender eyes, I thus stand vulnerable to a rose-tinted glasses fallacy. But there is something truly special about these games that I believe has been lost. I had beaten and played the first Knights of the Old Republic, but this is my first genuine playthrough of the second game, and so this game doesn't hold any childhood memories for me. There is no me looking back on it and being like, oh, I remember when I went through this at this time when I was in my early teens. This game doesn't have that for me. It's the genuine positives that brings through in its storytelling that what really brings me along through the entire game. And so that's why I really hope that, people can, developers can look at the basic schematics of this game, the blueprint of this game, and try to recapture that lightning necessary to create another really good 3D RPG. There's been a lot of very notable attempts at that, and plenty of games that definitely merit attention for that, but it just doesn't quite hit the same as it did with Knights of the Old Republic. But alright guys, that's really all I have with this. I hope this new little format that I'm doing for this seems a little bit nicer, a little bit better for you guys. I'm kind of just trying it out. It's meant to be not as much of a canned review with some of the newer games that I've done, and more of just being a long form, almost philosophical sort of thing with reviewing some of these old games. So please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, whether you like me reviewing these old games, whether you like the format of this, or just let me know what you're thinking. Yeah. So this is Last Rohican. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks for sticking with it to me at nearly 10 minutes now. This is definitely one of my longer videos. So yeah, thanks for watching and take it easy, guys.